Welcome to Cove Wellbeing and the My Trauma, Your Trauma series with me, Owen Morgan. I want to share my trauma journey and that of others. We will also look at the world of trauma healing, support and research, including guests who specialise in helping those overcome their trauma. My Trauma, Your Trauma is here to explore human experience. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Owen Morgan, creator of Cove Wellbeing and the My Trauma, Your Trauma show. I just want to thank everybody so much for supporting us and tuning in today. This show features 8 of my wellness friends, and we talk all things trauma and wellness. Every segment is between about 5 and 10 minutes, and we have such things as trauma talk, addiction connection, boys chat, Polyvagal party, From the Bookcase and Parent Path. So please do go and check out the co-host links in the description of this video. You'll find all the information there and show them some love, give them some follows. Some of us are mental health advocates, some are health bloggers. We also have therapists and wellness coaches on board and practitioners too. So we have a nice cross-section of experiences and skill sets that have been learned along the way too. I just want to do a quick shout out to all our awesome patrons on Patreon who support us and allow this talk show to happen. I create, produce and edit all the videos and talk shows that you see and hear. I do this alongside my life as a massage therapist and a stepdad to my amazing 4-year-old. And I also, have other jobs too. So I do this when I can. And these patrons really allow me to have extra time to do what I love so much. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, head over to www.patreon.com/MCW. Links in the description. You can check out all the other benefits you get from being part of the MCW community. So this was recorded in the middle of the worldwide pandemic, one that will impact a lot of people's mental health. So please check out the helplines listed in the video description. Do not deal with this time alone. If you need support, please reach out. We also have our directory with all of our wellness experts who have let us make videos for them. So you've got links to all their businesses if you feel they may be able to help. So here we are, episode 2. I can't believe it. Episode 1's gone down so well. And thank you everybody, for everyone that's downloaded, everybody that's listened, everybody that's shared. So I'm going to head over to the team. You'll hear from me throughout the show, but let's find out what's on the show this week. Thanks for listening, and let's crack on with the show.
I get a lot of messages asking how to heal from trauma. I wish I could say that it's as easy as A plus B plus C equals D. This is the beauty of the work, finding out what works for you. There is no absolute answer. And yes, it is frustrating because we talk so much about trauma, but we don't give you the magic solution. There is no magic solution. Actually, you have all the answers inside you. And that is part of the work, to uncover those answers. In trauma work, there is no one-size-heals-all method. There are some elements that many of us could agree we need. Self-compassion. Lots and lots of self-compassion. Learning to feel safe in your body and with others. And this is safety on an embodied level, not just cognitive. Developing the felt sense. This will be one of the most amazing things you could ever do. And it means to learn the language of the body. And like learning a new language, it'll take time and practice. Understanding your window of tolerance and what triggers you to move in and out of your survival responses so you can come back to safety. Learning tools to help you manage your emotions so you can use them while you're in this process. And lastly, rewrite your story. Your story deserves to be edited. I don't have a map. I don't have all the answers. But I help people create safe spaces so they can listen to their bodies. Healing always begins with safety.
Welcome back to Boys Chat, and this time I'm sitting down with the amazing Kieran from Breaking Barriers Australia. How are we today, Kieran?
I'm good, thanks. How you going, Owen?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I'm really enjoying this magazine show, and after I interviewed you for your one-to-one, I thought I need this guy on our magazine show, so thank you for joining us.
No worries. Thanks for having me back on the show.
No, thank you. We want these Boys Chats, as everybody knows, this is episode 2 at the moment. We want it to be organic, raw, and just two blokes having a good old chat, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So today we're talking about triggers, things that kind of set us off, put us into fight and flight, maybe make us a bit edgy, a bit aggressive maybe even make us feel a bit shut down as well, things that trigger us, emotionally. So we're just going to talk about how we've dealt with a few of working with our triggers in our healing journey. So for you, if anyone wants to hear more about your story, head over to YouTube and our podcast channels, and you can find out more about your stuff. But with your triggers and stuff on your healing journey, how did you kind of work with protecting yourself from triggers?
Yeah, right. So that's a really good question. So I think what I've done to help alleviate myself from the burden and suffering of triggers has been basically to identify its cause, to see where it's coming from, to know that this is something which is separate from what I've decided to create. In layman's terms, I should probably say that basically it's an unconscious reaction. It's come up. It's we've got this big, vast environment in front of us. And you might be going through that environment, walking through life, and then all of a sudden you might see a certain sight, or you might smell a certain smell, or hear a certain sound, and these environmental stimuli kind of trigger us, and that's what kind of snaps you back into the fight or flight mechanism. And you might have like a conditioned response to something which has triggered you to something you've gone through in the past. So like, to give you an example, a very subtle one for me is being in hospitals. I'm about to go through a 5-week clinical placement soon, and it's going to be in a community outreach center because I specifically asked to not be in hospitals, because I've been in hospitals so many times. The second I go back, the smells of the anti-disinfectant and the hand sanitizer and the clinical whitescape and the beeping, it reminds me of when I was in ICU, and the beds and the nurses and doctors. This is so triggering for me. It's not triggering to the point where I freeze up and can't function per se, but it's more about kind of feeling like it's just, I'm back in the past. I'm not with it. I'm not in the present. I'm actually living in the past. I'm not focusing on what's in front of me. My mind has gone back into the past. I'm currently living in the circumstances I was in when I was going through some really hectic surgeries, when I was going through some really tremendous pain. And it just kind of seems like, if like we go through life, it's almost like you jump back into your previous life. And that to me is what a trigger is. And it's sometimes might be very overt. It might be very in your face, and you know it straight away. You're like, yep, that's my trigger. You got it. And then there are other times where it might be a little bit inconspicuous, might be a little bit like an undercurrent or an undertone, and you're kind of feeling a bit, you're feeling a bit not with it, or you're feeling a bit shaky, you're not sure why. And that's why I think it's, for me in particular, it's been so important to just watch the mind, just watch it, just watch the whole thing, and kind of objectively examine what's going on with this mind, what's going on. Oh, okay, maybe that was a trigger. Maybe I'm feeling a little bit weary today, or a bit anxious because I'm triggered by this smell, or I'm triggered by this sight, and just sit with it. But don't get lost in it, but just sit with it and try and identify it.
Yeah, thank you, my friend. And I really like the fact that you talked about kind of all the different senses are involved in that. You don't just get triggered by people. You can get triggered, like you said, by, it could be a piece of music, it could be a smell, it could be a banging noise, a crash noise, all kinds of different things. And like you said, with Body Keeps a Score, from a sort of Bessel van der Kolk perspective, that moment that you were overwhelmed with your trauma, your body and that kind of keep the score environment kind of keeps a score of every element of that trauma event, doesn't it? Like you said, from the smell at the time, or the piece of music that was in the background, it kind of gets locked, doesn't it, in this kind of snapshot of your trauma. And that's why those things trigger you later, because you haven't been able to process, what you've been through, and it kind of kicks in. And this is quite a hardcore thing we're talking about, and obviously it's not an easy subject to work through, but we just, like you said, you nailed it on the head. It's looking at, like everything, don't just treat the symptom, decide where it's starting from. Where did it begin, and how's that narrative played out? It's the same with medication, isn't it? You know, you don't just take medication. You've got to, for a symptom, you've got to think, where does this symptom keep coming back? And it's the same with triggers, isn't it? And it's that level of awareness is just so empowering, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's interesting because, you know, recently we've been, I'm studying working memory in like neurology at the moment. And basically, you know, the model that we have of working memory at the moment to kind of show triggers is that we've got like this visual spatial sketch pad. Like we kind of create this version of what we're seeing in front of us in our eyes. And then we've got the phonological loop, which is just the audio, the playing, all the stuff that's coming in. And then we've got an episodic buffer, which is you might be out in a park. That's the sketch pad. And then you know, you're hearing sounds, or, you know, someone might be yelling or whatever. And that might have been your trauma. That's the scene, right? And if we look at the brain like some sort of recording system, where we've got the visual spatial sketch pad in front of us, we've got the phonological loop, and we're living in real time recording this experience. And let's just say that's like a recording experience, and we go through that. And then that's what creates the trauma. That's what, like, you know, is like the mirror dropping, the glass dropping, it shatters you, right? So let's just say a year down the track or 6 months down the track, you might be going through the same park or a different looking park, same time of the day. So your environment's very similar, or you might be hearing sounds which are quite similar. And in your mind, the working memory part of your brain has identified and conditioned that, wow, I don't like being in this park right now. I don't like these sounds. You might hear someone yell to his girlfriend, and it might be a pleasant yell, but your mind has, you're triggered. You're just completely triggered because your mind has gone back into that previous recording or that previous movie that you've created in your mind. And I think it's just really interesting to talk about that sort of like working neuroanatomy of how this works, because for me, that's helped. I see things from a scientific point of view and a mindfulness point of view as well. I try and be as observant as I can, but also, you know, sometimes I try and look at the scientific perspective as well, because I'm like, yeah, well, there you go. There's a really good scientific rationale as to what I'm experiencing right now. And like you said, Bessel van der Kolk's great. His work in The Body Keeps the Score has been very healing for me. And reading it, I'm somebody who, I love facts. The neuroscience was great. You know, the amygdala always turned on, and amygdala, for people who aren't aware, is like the brain smoke detector. And, you know, it's just really good to have that understanding. But, you know, the best thing is for anyone who's listening right now is that you know your body best. You know what's going on in your body. And I think that it's just being observant as possible and knowing why these arise, how they arise. And you know, like just trying to be as present as possible and not feel inundated and subdued in this, because it's something which was in the past. You know, Bessel does certainly talk about trauma shattering you and creating the physical imprint in the brain, but he also talks about yoga and how yoga can be so bloody healing for you, and can, you know, the brain it's neuroplastic. Meaning the brain can change and shape and create new pathways and heal itself. And you know, they've found through long-term yoga programs that really does work. And I can testify to that. I've just done 45 days yoga on the Down Dog app. And I'll tell you what, like, I've been through some pretty crazy days throughout the pandemic in the last month and a half. And it's really kept me in good stead. So these are some things I've done to really help me on my trauma journey and deal with triggers. And yeah.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that as well, as to how the brain is, you know, adaptive and can, you know, nothing is set in stone. You know, you always grow. And I guess every environment that we go into, every interaction that we have is going to be slightly informed with everything up to our point in that moment. Our whole life will inform our relationship with any environment and any experience we have. That's just the way it is. You know, it's how we have developed. And it's knowing how to be in that present moment and not be overly informed by all of this stuff, which sounds, this is like an hour-long trigger episode. But I'm hoping that what we've talked about here gives people an understanding that, you know, sometimes you can't control the fact those triggers have come, but you can be compassionate to yourself and go, wow, okay, I was triggered by that. That's interesting. And having that level of awareness is really empowering. Like, wow, okay. And then that sort of inquisitiveness can allow you to feel safer in those environments, and you can look at the reality of the environment. Now, actually, you know, I am okay, and this does feel a bit crap. I do feel a bit sick, or I do have, my heart is pumping a little bit. So what can I give myself right now? Do I need to remove myself from the situation? That's totally cool. That's compassionate. Or maybe there's someone I'm with. I can say, oh God, man, I'm feeling a bit, and then they go, it's all right, man. And then they can give you some love. You know, it's just knowing, you know, how to resource yourself, isn't it, in any moment. And I just, before we go, I just want to say, you know, we talked about triggers, but there's also glimmers as well. So there's also, you know, things that give you some, you know, you smell something, it brings you joy. It's the opposite. So, you know, also look out for all of the lush stuff as well that gets you going. Like pieces of music from my past, oh my God, put them on, just changes my instant mood. So it's like, this is not meant to be depressing. This is a combination of human experience, really. So I just want to thank you so much for joining me today on this particular topic. So for anybody that's listened to you for the first time, where can they find you online?
Probably the best place to find me would be Instagram, and it's on Breaking. So I run a mental health peer support organization, mainly for blogging, just called Breaking Barriers Australia. So you can find me on Instagram. Breaking Barriers AUS for short. So main platform at the moment is Breaking Barriers Australia on Instagram, and that's where anyone can find me. And I'd love for anyone to come follow me.
Brilliant. Thank you, mate. I'll put a link in the description of the video. And also anybody that wants to hear Kieran's full story, we had the most epic chat. It's Transcending My Trauma Journey, it's called. I think it's episode 3 of My Trauma, Your Trauma. So head over to YouTube, Spotify, Apple or whatever, type in Cove Wellbeing, and you'll be able to listen to us just talking about just the most amazing journey that you've been on. So thanks, Kieran. I'll see you for the next episode.
Thanks, Owen. Cheers, mate.
Hi everyone, my name is Emerald. I'm a family nurse practitioner and I'm dedicated to helping people understand addiction due to lost connections and trauma. And we can't really understand trauma unless we take this little survey known as the ACEs study. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, and it looks at abuse, if it's physical, emotional, or sexual, if there was any neglect in the home, such as physical or emotional, and any household dysfunction, any mental illness, if their mother or father were treated violently, if there was any divorce, if anybody went to prison, or if there was any substance abuse. And essentially, you can take this and you would add up the scoring, and if you're a 2 or above, you're at risk for toxic stress in your life, which could result in lifelong behavioral or physical or mental health issues. And this could be smoking, alcohol addiction, drug abuse, diabetes, suicide attempts, heart disease, cancer, stroke, all those things. And so trauma is really linked back to that. And a lot of times people think of trauma as like these huge major events, but it could be something as simple as a divorce and chronic fighting of parents in the home that dysregulated the child's nervous system and led to stress, and their brain might have not developed in the right way, in a healthy way. And so as we also look at lost connections, we can think of attachment. We all desire to have healthy relationships, and humans are designed for connection. And we all want love and joy and peace. And so when any of these are missing or lost, people might turn to drugs or gambling or money or work or sex to try and fill a void that maybe they lost. Because we have these neurotransmitters and these hormones in our bodies and endorphins, and we want this feeling, and maybe we had this feeling as a child and then we lost it. And so we're always trying to connect back and get this kind of emotional high, so to speak. And when someone finds something that gives them that, they might start doing that over and over again, and their life might actually get out of control because of that. And so someone I've studied under, Dr. Gabir Mate, who is a huge proponent for a lot of helping people understand this, his big quote is, don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. And when we talk about pain, we're not talking about chronic pain, although sometimes we are, but really there's like a deeper internal pain. And I think that people might have lost their connection, or you might even not have learned emotionally how to understand your own emotions. That could be, I think with humans, we've become more intellectually knowledgeable, but we kind of lost this emotional knowledge. And so that is kind of the gist of addiction. Addiction is many things. It's not just a chemical imbalance, but it is treatable, and there's hope. And I believe that people can heal. And so what I don't love is when doctors just give someone a diagnosis of a mental health condition and give them a pill, and they're kind of stuck in thinking that that's their genetic and the only way that, and that's just how they're going to be for the rest of their life. I think getting through adverse childhood experiences can be very difficult and challenging, but I think we can get through them, and I believe that we can get through them. And so really understanding this and having more compassion for things that have happened to people, and this can bring greater understanding and greater healing to all humans. So thank you so much for listening and being part of My Trauma, Your Trauma. My brother struggles with addiction. My dad passed away with addiction, and so did my stepmom. And so my heart goes out to anyone who has a family or a loved one struggling. And keep going. Don't give up. And you're amazing.
Welcome everybody to episode 2 of Parent Path. I'm Owen Morgan.
And I'm Bethany Hoath.
And today we're talking inner child. Bethany, this was a great idea from you. I think it's such a great place to start on episode 2. We've done all introductions on episode 1. People are going to check it out. But today we're going to talk about the inner child. So the inner child, inside of us, that has a massive part to play in how we parent, and how we kind of deal with all of our stuff as well, all of our triggers and our issues along the way too. And I literally today had an amazing 2-hour coaching call with my amazing friend Steve, amazing coach, loads of modalities. And I had loads of shifts today to do with my inner child and trying, forgiving my parents for constantly working and not being around, found it very difficult. So, I had to come to a place of, forgiveness there and being able to embrace them today with all of the amazing love that they show me. So today I've already had some shifts with my inner child. But as we'll discuss, I find, for example, with my stepson who's coming up to 4, when he tantrums, I'm not very good with sort of high energy confrontation from my bullying as a kid. So I find tantrums very triggering. So for you, Bethany, how do you find tantrums for you?
Oh gosh. Well, when I was a kid, we got spankings. So when my child has a tantrum, it does trigger a feeling of spankings, of, if I was that age and I behaved that way, would I be getting a spanking? Or if it was my brother. I have 6 younger brothers, which gives me a lot of good boy experience, good toddler boy experience. And, so there was a time when they were really triggering. And one of the first things that really changed that for me was just my awareness of that this is a thing. Like just to know something is a thing is really powerful. And then just to kind of start to recognize like, oh, this is that thing. Oh, this is that thing. And our nervous systems, they pick up on each other. So if my kid is dysregulated, I'm going to pick up on that. If I'm dysregulated, he's going to pick up on that. And really, he's just looking for some sort of reassurance of a need that's going to be met. It can be really basic. When they're so young, it's so primal. It's so survival instinct.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about, meeting needs, because, even if you're talking about from a love language perspective, as adults, we have different love languages about how to meet our needs of love. And it's, the child, we all know, want to feel safe, feel protected by us. But our inner child has to engage in that too. So if we have a very isolated childhood, disconnected from our parents, and we weren't able to really connect deeply like that, that's going to have a big impact as the parents that we are today. And I know that when I play with my stepson, it's the one time where my inner child is with him. So my inner child and him are both playing together, and it's the greatest thing ever. I just feel so amazing. And even though my inner child is slightly wounded from things that happened to him, he's also able to engage with my stepson, so they can play and have the most amazing, imaginative day together ever. And that is so good for his development. And I'm very proud of that. It's only when things are tough, like tantrums, where I'm not sure my inner child can't cope with that. I find it really triggering, but I have to stay in the room, be there for him, hug him, be there for when he wants to come over. Sometimes they don't want to go anywhere near you. So you just stay in the room, say, I'm here when you need me. I'm here when you're ready. And it's super, super powerful. But when we talk about inner child, it's not all doom and gloom. It's also amazing too, because we have to be a crazy child to play with them in the first place. So you say you had 6 younger brothers, which that is crazy. So did you end up having to look after them slightly? Were you a slight caregiver then, if you were the older sister?
Oh, definitely. I spent a lot of my time caring for my younger brothers. And it's really given me a lot of tangible tools for keeping toddlers alive. Nothing they do surprises me. I know all their little tricks and sneakiness and, put the things far up and, all this stuff a lot of people just have to learn by experience, by being around a small child. It's a unique experience unlike anything else. And I definitely spent a lot of time caring for my brothers.
So does your inner child parent, we'll call it that, does that inform your parenting today? Or have you tried to mold your own parenting style different to your parents, how they would have shown you? You kind of established your own beliefs and values around it.
I definitely have my own path. I do have some influence still from my parents. I know, some things are just kind of subconscious almost, that, wiring of my childhood and the years of being kind of a mini mom to my brothers, and all the automatic interactions of, brush your teeth and don't throw that, and eat your food, and lay down so I can change your diaper, and all those things. Like, I just think of how many times did I say those phrases to my younger brothers, and how many times do I say them to my sons? And it's kind of also made me really aware of what I am saying, and that my words matter, and that when I interact with my kids, I want them to know that I'm always speaking truth, that I'm being direct, and that they're valued and they matter, and they're their own human beings with their own needs. And there's a reason why my 3-year-old screams for something. It's not just because he's angry. He has a need.
Yeah, it's kind of validating their emotions too, isn't it? It's validating every emotion they have, no matter what it is, and making sure that they're being seen and heard for that emotion, and the space being created. I mean, there's no rocket science about this. It's not super deep. It's just, logical stuff. But if we have an opportunity to become aware of our childhood and our experiences, we're able to tap into ourselves a little bit, be reflective. It can really inform the way we parent. So, me feeling detached from my parents and them not being around much, constantly working with child minds and stuff, I'm now very aware as a parent that I want to give my stepson as much time with me as possible. And when I am with him, it's very pure and beautiful. And I always explain to him why I'm not there. You know, I'm going to work to do this. I tell him everything. I'm going to massage somebody now. I'll be back later. Always informing, always informing. So what I didn't get, I'm now able to give him. So if that's not a positive from my own experience, then, you know, what is? So, you know, tapping into your inner child in an explorative way is so powerful, you know, to parent with. So for the audience listening this week to this, what would be like a piece of advice you would give them, or a technique, or what could you share with them they can take away from today?
Just really put yourself into the position of your child in this scenario. You know, how would you feel if you were them and you had this desire, and, you know, these big giant humans were always telling you what to do and where to go and how to do it, and just how utterly overwhelming that is, and that, you know, you're your baby's safe place. You're their comfort, and that's an honor and a privilege.
Definitely. No, it's so, you're right. It's so powerful. And I've always felt like it's not just our stepson. He is so wise. He is so with it. He's not even 4. He totally gets what's going on. I don't think we give kids enough credit. So my advice would be, honestly, your kids are like way wiser and more intelligent than you can ever believe. They are sponges. They're sucking up everything. So we've taught him from like 2.5. We told him what meditation was. We taught him about emotions. Told him to always express that to us. So now at 4, he'll come up to us and go, mummy, you know, I'm feeling a bit sad. And we go, okay, where do you feel it in your body? Then he'll say where, then we'll say what color. And then he'll say, and we say, what can we do for your sadness right now? And he'll say, fill it with love, please. So we've taught him a language so early for him to express his own emotions to people, to be seen, to be heard. And then we give that back to him. You know, that's full on co-regulation, which is exactly what we're going to talk about in our next episode. It's all about co-regulation. So please, guys, think your kids are so insanely intelligent. So just tell them all you know, so they can use that and resource themselves, because they will take it on if you tell them. So
yes, they're so smart.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome pieces of advice. Thank you so much, Bethany. That's brilliant. So I hope that was a little insight into the inner child today, guys. And as always, we're not clinicians. We're just talking about our own experiences as parents and what we've learned reading books and listening to audios and all the way through the last couple of years. But next time we're going to talk about co-regulation. Huge passion for both of us. There'll be a bit of polyvagal sneaking into that conversation too. So we'll see you next week for some co-regulation. Welcome back to Boys Chat, and this time I've got John Eli with me today. How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing wonderful, Owen. Thank you.
No, thank you for being part of this. This is the first time you've been involved in the magazine show. Of course, we've done some interview stuff together and some stuff on the Cove Wellbeing TV show. But for anybody that doesn't know you yet, you just want to quickly let them know who you are, your business, and what you do.
Definitely, Owen. Thank you. So my name is John Eli, and my business is called John Eli Virtual Mindset Coach. And what I am is I'm a men's coach, a men's mindset coach, and I help men learn how to manage life during turbulent times. More specifically, I feel called to help men find purpose after failure. And that's the space that I hold here in this world at the current time.
Definitely, yeah, brilliant. Absolutely amazing work that you're doing. And for everybody listening, head over to our YouTube channel. Me and John have a one-to-one for a good hour, just talking about all things wellness. So get over there, guys, and check it out. It's on there. And also, you're part of our season finale on the Cove Wellbeing chat show. 9 of us. Absolutely amazing time, wasn't it?
That was a blast. I had so much fun making that podcast with you, that episode. Thank you. Thank you for making me be part of it.
That's all right. Series 2 is coming up, and episode 10, we will go at it again, and we'll get hopefully 10. I want to try and get 10 each time for the 10th episode. I think that'll be brilliant. But today we're talking mindset, so we're just going to have a little dive in there. Nothing too heavy, but from sort of what is mindset then? From your perspective, what would you say it is?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, what a mindset is, it's a set of underlying beliefs that influence the way that we respond to the world around us. And there's a mindset encompasses so many parts of our lives, and there's parts of our mindset that we're consciously aware of and that we take ownership of. But if we're not careful, there's a lot of lack of self-awareness that we have about ourselves and the beliefs that we bring into the world. Which, having said that, our mindset can either lead us to a place of possibility and prosperity and abundance, or it can lead us to a place of self-destruction if we're not careful.
Yeah, I kind of like it because there's an element of awareness there too, isn't it? It's being aware of what your thoughts generally tend to do and where your beliefs tend to follow you, where you end up going with that. And I kind of like the way of kind of how you're perceiving the world, though can be affected, of course, by your nervous system and everything you've been through. Is also, how you approach the world. You can kind of slowly, I guess, train. Would you say it's a bit like training the way you think a little bit with it too?
Absolutely. I really believe that whenever we become conscious, whenever we are intentional about understanding, about getting to know ourselves and understanding what makes us tick, what makes us operate in the way that we operate, whenever we are able to uncover what our core values are, whenever we're able to do the self-discovery to find out why behind the what we do. There's so many times that we find ourselves in these behavior patterns, these survival patterns that aren't serving us well. And if we would only take the time to understand the belief that is influencing that behavior, that's whenever we can make the change that is necessary for us to have an abundant life.
Yeah, it's really nice. I guess it's been explorative as well over, like you said, how you're feeling in any moment, patterns that you've had before and how you can shift and change those patterns over time. So from like a motivational standpoint with mindset, can you use sort of mindset techniques to really help with procrastination, motivation to get things done? Is there little techniques people can kind of integrate with that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of reframing. There's a lot of times that we see a certain situation and automatically we get this autonomic response of fight or flight. We go totally sympathetic and we either want to run or we want to put up a fight. But we can use that situation and even that physical experience that we're having in our body to flip the script and create a new narrative that will serve us better. I'll give you an example is about 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago, I was separated from my wife. And I had the choice. I could view that as the end of the world, which that's absolutely what it felt like in my body. Or I could choose to flip the script and view that situation as an opportunity for personal growth. And so I chose the latter, and I'm able today to experience a more fulfilled life because I didn't go down the rabbit hole of self-destruction. And so mindset is so powerful, and it can change your whole trajectory of life if you learn how to gain control of it.
Really like that. And it has an element of intention too, doesn't it? Have going in with certain intentions. And right now, obviously, when we're recording this, it's part of the pandemic. And I guess more than ever right now, mindset's so key to get through these crazy times. Like I haven't seen my stepson for 10 weeks now. And it's tough. Like you said, I feel it. I gutter in my gut, feel that pain, but have to keep a mindset of the reunion is going to be the most amazing thing ever. Yes. And I'm lucky to have video calling. There's so much gratitude that I've brought to my way of seeing and thinking about the situation. So is that kind of what you're suggesting, is that I've been able to take this experience, but reframe it to be a positive gratitude situation?
Absolutely. And reframing your mindset doesn't mean that you're erasing your humanity or the reality that you're an emotional human being that experiences emotions on a daily basis. Last night, similar to something that you're going through, I had a good cry with my mom. I haven't seen my mom since November. I was planning on making a trip to go see her right whenever they shut us all down. And so I haven't been able to go see my mom, and my mom is elderly. And there's all this fear that comes around in it, around the fact of returning and going back to visit her. I'm in a big city, she's in a small town. And there's a lot of fear that enters my body, even at the thought of visiting her. But talking with her, I also give us the space to imagine what it will be like once we are able to see each other. I imagine the way the hug will be. I imagine that it's going to be just a great celebration. And I'm looking forward to that, as opposed to going down the rabbit hole of saying, I'm never, ever going to see my mom again. I'm operating from a place of hope and optimism rather than pessimism.
Yeah, that's really nice. And as we always say, we're not saying this is an easy thing to do. We're not saying you can just, flip the switch and just go for it. And, on the next episode, we're going to talk about self-regulation anyway. That plays a huge part in this as well. And from a polyvagal theory perspective as well, thoughts follow states. So how you feeling in your body does affect the way you think. But if you can kind of keep track of that, grab a hold of that, create space, and bring in thoughts that you are generating yourself, then maybe some equilibrium can kick in. So brilliant. I think this has been a great first episode for you and me, to deep dive into mindset briefly. Is there anything else you can think of we've not mentioned, or shall we wrap up to the next segment?
Something just came into my mind really quick, and I think it's a great quote. I don't know who said it. I've looked it up on the internet, and it seems like everybody has a different opinion on who originally stated it. But the opinion is that the quote is, "We don't see things as they are; we see things as we are." And I think that's just a very great quote that can remind us to be mindful that our view of life in itself will always be based on the mindset that we have. So it's great to own it and take responsibility for it.
Yeah, I really like that. And taking, sometimes we've got to take responsibility too of our own experience, our own nervous system, our own reaction to, there's a lot
Absolutely.
It's not easy, but we do need to take responsibility of it where possible. We can't put it outwardly to those around us, very tricky. So before we go, where's the best place for people to check you out? Would it be Instagram and your Facebook group?
Yeah, so Instagram and my webpage are the best places to get a hold of me. You can find me on Instagram at the.john, JOHN.Eli. And you can also find me on my webpage at www.john-eli.com.
Brilliant. Awesome. We'll pop your website in the links anyway, and with the rest of the team. So thank you, John, for being your first segment on the magazine show. And when people tune in for episode 3, it'll be you, me again, and we're going to talk about self-regulation. So I'll see you there.
Beautiful. Looking forward to it.
Hello, Cove Wellbeing community. It's Sarah Wainwright here from Sydney. Lovely to be with you, and thank you for having me back again. Further to the podcast on parenting and trauma, I'd like to speak about one of the basic aspects of a healthy relationship, which is having healthy emotional boundaries. If healthy boundaries or limits or parameters don't exist between family members, such as between partners or parents and children, then it might be said that the relationship is enmeshed. In enmeshed relationships, the boundaries between two or more people are unclear and they are permeable. The blurring of emotional boundaries, typically between family members, often contributes to family dysfunction or conflict. Practically speaking, enmeshment means that one person feels what the other person is feeling. So, for instance, as one person's emotions escalates, they may become angry, anxious, upset, or sad, so does the other person's emotions. This means that their emotional experiences are not separate and that there is over-emotional involvement in each other's lives. You may have observed enmeshment where one party especially may be more defined by the relationship or the other person than by their own identity, their individuality, and their ability to act autonomously. Another indicator of an enmeshed relationship is the dependence on the other to fulfill their emotional needs. So that's what a relationship looks like that lacks emotional boundaries. I've got some tips to help with being more emotionally independent in relationships, but I want to add a caveat here too. It doesn't mean that to be more emotionally separate, that you have to be detached, distant, or cut off. Rather, it means that you're less likely to catch the other person's emotions. As such, you're more immune and less vulnerable to contagious emotions. It actually ties in quite nicely to the current COVID crisis, where we need to protect ourselves and each other from catching the virus. Emotions can be like that too. They're very catchy. So here are some tips to building healthy boundaries in a relationship, and especially for yourself. 1, it would be to engage in other meaningful, fulfilling relationships outside the enmeshed one. 2, to seek ways to feel alone and content outside of the enmeshed relationship. 3, to build self-esteem, self-worth, and self-concept. This is how you see yourself, again, outside of the enmeshed relationship. This may be, for instance, finding something to be passionate about and really getting involved with that only belongs to you. So the final takeaway would be allowing emotional space. For example, for parents and their children, that's providing empathy, support, warmth, and love. But it doesn't necessarily include rescuing or trying to fix the other person's problems. This allows for a more balanced relationship where independence and autonomy is respected. I hope this is useful and lovely chatting with you again. I've written about this quite extensively if you want to see my posts on Instagram at _parentingtips_. Bye for now.
Welcome to Man Cove Moments. And for those that have listened to our other podcast, the Man Cove Wellbeing Talk Show, will know us guys very, very well. But we're also going to feature on the Trauma Show just to talk about some few little key bits that we've learned along the way that may be trauma-informed too as well. So if you want to find out more about us and our talk show, head over to YouTube and you'll be able to check out Series 1, 10 episodes. And we ended with 9 amazing dudes talking about wellness. So just quickly, Steve, just want to let everybody know who you are.
I'm Steve Truelove. I'm a mindset coach, and I've been doing this work for 20 plus years. I'm basically helping to connect people back to their power and become the best version of themselves.
Brilliant. Thank you, Darryl. Everybody know who you are?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's always changing, isn't it? So who am I now? I do coaching as well, a lot of, and I'm big on kind of sharing my message and kind of inspiring others. And a lot of that now, as we're in lockdown right now, is on social media. So I'm doing a lot on there sharing, and I'm creating a podcast now. So and I'm loving being involved in this. So it's just lots of different outlets to share the message, share the inspiration, and connect with people and empower them.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. And and as people know, if they've heard the show before, we take a topic like anxiety, depression. We did one on bullying. We did one on the state of men's health. We did relationships. That was really cool. So we kind of pick on a topic, and the three of us kind of discuss through everything that we've been through and maybe give some insight to, and we bring on amazing guests as well. And in series 2, we're talking about how to use certain tools to help mental health. So for you, Steve, how have you found the journey so far in series 1, and what are some key moments or people that you've met? What value have you got from it?
Oh, it's been absolutely awesome, Owen, and what you're doing is phenomenal. I think it's going to help so many people. Probably already has. I've had my own insights, meeting people like Kenny, who was running his groups with men up around the London area, I had my own insight in that session, actually, about I am and am I, you know, and how that flipped at some time for me, and I hadn't made the connection. So there's people like John in Arizona, I believe he was from.
Arizona, yeah.
Where, you know, you find you connect with people because of the things you're doing. When I started talking about the saxophone and his face lit up, we didn't have the audio on, but I saw the visual, you know, and I thought, oh, there's a connection, yeah. And then we found that, you know, he calls himself a mindset coach in America, and I'm doing the same thing here. And little things were connecting up throughout the session that we had with the 10, I think it was 10 of us on there, was it, with the last episode we did. I know Darryl recorded separately from us because he couldn't make it because he was finishing his coaching. But I think it's, you know, everybody who's involved in the show has been on the journey, is starting the journey, or is in the middle of a journey. And it's bringing it all together so that people can start to connect with somebody on the show and maybe make a link to them. It doesn't matter who it is. And that very probably will help to save a life, help somebody to create a new path in their life, because I think people are reinventing themselves at the moment, especially with all that the world has gone through with this lockdown. Lots of people have got to find new jobs or find a new path. And I think this is helping that. And what I really love about it is it's not standing still. It's not becoming boring in a sense of, oh, they talk about the same thing. You've shifted it now to a new series where, you know, you're using a different topic, and then in the next series we'll have another topic. So in effect, you're, like life is a story, you're taking people on a journey for a new story, to write a new book, a new chapter of their lives, maybe paint a new picture of what their lives can look like. And I really take my hat off to you, because you've worked hard, you've pulled this together, and it's not only connecting people in Wales, in England, Scotland, and Britain, you're connecting us around the world. It's just fantastic. And I think there's something for everybody on, at least, you know, not everyone, but at least one of the shows that we're doing. Somebody will connect with something, and that's going to help to spark a little change in their lives and help them to move somewhere new. And it's all about, you know, we talk about it a lot. It's about everybody really, I believe, wants to be happy, successful, but above all, we all need to be healthy, because without health, you know, that holds everybody back. You could be a millionaire, but you haven't got your health. It's no good. Money doesn't do anything for you. And to be healthy is being in the right state of mind, where you're working well with yourself and understanding yourself better. And I really believe that's what you're creating. You're creating a journey, a path, and you're making people available through this work that people don't have to maybe pay and have therapy with, but they can just connect with. And I'm sure all the people I've met through the talks would be quite happy and willing to just connect and email somebody or talk to somebody and help them in whatever way they can. So there's lots of help out there. Brilliant.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you so much for your kind word. That's amazing. And like you said, we want to share a combination of sharing stories, experiences, being relatable. You know, we want listeners to feel like they're with us kind of indirectly, because that's, you know, connection, being seen, understood, heard is so powerful. And that's what we're trying to do. And like the first series is about how to deal with, and now we're saying how to use. So like you said, it's taken them on a journey. And it's been such a joy to meet all these amazing people. Yeah. And there's so many amazing men's health movements out there. And I've connected with 6-7 different guys, all running Instagram pages and YouTube channels. I'm interviewing all of them for the Trauma Show. And it's just been absolutely amazing, because it's a subject that needs more, you know, exposure. And by collaborating, we can make that happen. So Darryl, I don't think Steve's left you much to say. They said. So what have you taken out of it? What have you learned anything about yourself on the journey?
Yeah, it was brilliantly put by Steve, and he covered a lot. And I think the key for me is really, what I got from that is the openness, the authenticity, and the power of these the dynamics, the sessions, how it goes between us, the guests we have on, as Steve alluded to there. It's been amazing. That just the openness, the authenticity, and the power behind all of that, and the people and the connection with us, and like Steve said, we can learn from each other as well and inspire each other and connect with each other. And I think that then will also be powerful to go across to people viewing, and they'll feel a part of that. And I think these formats that you're doing, and you're doing it in an array of different ways, kind of different shows, different angles, different purposes in a way, but with the whole collective as a focus on like the podcast and the video content format. I think it's really great to engage people on the way we do it, the way you do it, and the way it's done, and the way we interact with each other, and the information that's shared, and the stories, and all of that. And it's very real. There's a lot of things you can, like tools and tips and advice, but it's a lot of just real talk as well, isn't it? And real people and real life problems and experiences, so to speak. And I think just the sharing of that and the stories and the power behind that, and us together sharing that, and then that being seen from that, and then other people feeling connected to that and being able to follow that journey and be part of it basically with us, is really powerful. And I think in terms of like podcasts, you can just have it in your ears, or the videos you can see and experience like that. You can really connect to it. And I think the message that is coming from this and the power that's coming from this, and I think it's amazing, as Steve said, what you've kind of you really started to create here, and it's already, I can see it's already starting to make an impact on people, and it's making an impact on me, and it's really powerful and really inspiring. And yeah, hats off to you, and the future looks bright, and I'm really excited to continue forward with this movement, so to speak.
Yeah, thank you guys. I wasn't expecting such a big promo for the show, but there you go. Thank you so much. The idea of this is just to give people insight into our passion and our drive for what we do, and why it means so much to us. And that's why we do the show that we do. I just create the platform I host, and you guys tie it all up with an awesome energetic bow on the top too. So anybody who's listened to the My Trauma, Your Trauma show, obviously that's where we are right now. We will have exclusive little mini chats on here, stuff that you won't hear over on the Cove Wellbeing show. So if you're a big fan of that over there, head over here and get some exclusive clips. And likewise the other way around, if you want to hear us in more detail talking about topics, head over that way. But Cove Moments on this channel is all about giving you some little bits of insight on a slightly trauma informed, mostly wellness, but there will be some trauma informed. So before we go, guys, just briefly in a sentence or two, Steve, for you, what is trauma? How would you describe trauma? What is it to you?
Trauma is different for everybody, and it's an experience that we've had, and it can be something very little and trivial, or it could be huge. And when I'm talking about that, it could be like emotional, mental, sexual abuse as a child, but it can also be as simple as a comment made by somebody, a flippant comment made, and it's how you take it on. And it depends where you were at that time and what age you were at that time, and the way you took it on and made it, as we've talked in many of our podcasts, the story of what you've been stuck with for a long time. So trauma is a big subject. It's a big area, and I know you cover it well. But basically, for me, it's just the experience, and I just want everybody to know, whatever experience you've had, if you're listening to these or talking to somebody right now, then you've come through them. It's just you're replaying it out in your own mind. And if you can find the right help or just do the right thing to release that, then your trauma will just be that story that doesn't create the problem within yourself.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really interesting way to think about it. I hesitant to say nice way, because that's a weird thing to say, but it's a very interesting take on it. And every episode I do with one-to-one interviews, I ask everybody that same question. Honestly, it's mind-blowing, all the different interpretations. Yeah. I'm really glad that you mentioned the comment thing, because there's little comments that you get from loved ones that sort of developmental trauma over time from repeated comments. You know, it's not just car crashes and bereavement. It's those little social interactions that weigh you down can create trauma over time. So thanks, Steve. That's awesome. For you, Darryl, what is trauma from your perspective?
Yeah, the key word that Steve said there that really comes up for me as well is the experience. Because I feel like traumatic, isn't it? Traumatic experience. And whether it be a happy experience, a loving experience, or a traumatic experience, they're all just experiences. They're not necessarily are us, but we can attach to them. And I think, as Steve alluded to as well, there's different levels, isn't there? They can be minor things. Even a flippant comment can cause a little bit of trauma, so to speak. But like in terms of medical as well, trauma is usually quite severe. So, and often I feel like if something really impacts you, it can often comes back from childhood. It could be a recent thing, like it could be lots of different things. There's no one things, but like deaths or bullying or different things can cause trauma. And it's when you hold on to them, a bit like I've said, I don't know if I've said on the show before, but like a metaphor of holding the cup. You hold it for a little while, and you're just experiencing that feeling, whether it be happy or traumatic. And when you let it go, and then it flows in balance, but when you're holding on to it, it really starts to hurt, and the trauma is held on to. So for me, it's all about that kind of still attached to it, and it's still kind of having a hold over you. And that trauma really then kind of impacts your whole life and all of your experience.
Yeah, thank you guys. And yet another version of saying it. We like to empower people with different language about trauma. And this is why I keep asking the question. It gives a slightly different language to it, which is really good for people's awareness. So thanks, guys. That was awesome. That was our first Man Cove Moments episode, a little mini episode, a little bite-sized thing. So Steve, just quickly, where can people find you if they need to get in contact?
Yeah, you can find me on www.lovelifeloveyou.co.uk.
Awesome. Thank you, Darryl.
Yeah, and DarrylOsborne.com, and I'm across social media. Got groups and a podcast coming out soon, so lots of things. But go to my website and you'll find lots of information and links there.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And you can find me, obviously, on Man Cove Wellbeing. On many a video, you're probably going, this guy just keeps talking. But that's what I love to do. So there you go.
Keep doing it.
So that's our first edition of Man Cove Moments. Thank you, guys, for being involved. And let's crack on with the rest of the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Polyvagal Party with me, Owen Morgan. And as always, the idea of this Polyvagal Party segment is just me sharing what I've learned about polyvagal theory, why I enjoy it, why it makes sense, why the language used in it is something that I can really resonate with. Now, like anything, you need to do your own research and see what you connect with. This is just personal opinion. I tried not to overly research too much. I listened to Stephen Porges' book on Audible and been walking my way through Deb Dane and stuff too. I just love it. I just think it's really cool and I want to share it with everybody. I'm a massage therapist. I'm not a therapist, no formal training. I've worked with clients for about 6 or 7 years in personal training and massage work. I'm just talking from the perspective of someone just loves learning about such things. I've interviewed hundreds of people over the years too, so I just like to share what I've learned, what makes sense to me. So last time with the Polyvagal Party episode, we talked about the different states that we can be in. So safe and social, the top of the ladder, fight and flight states, survival states, and then shut down or freeze response if we can't run away or fight back. These are all nervous system states we can be in, controlled by the vagus nerve or partly by the vagus nerve, which is kind of the backdrop to that. But what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about how the story follows state. So the way we think being affected by the state that our body's in has a big impact on maybe the thoughts that come through, and also really affects the way we behave too. As none of us really want to be in fight and flight all day long, all week long, all year long. We'll find ways to avoid that pain, and with shutdown we don't feel much really. So we're always clambering to find ways to feel again. So I just popped onto a website and found these 2 paragraphs that may be interesting to you, which is, if we have unresolved trauma in our past, we may live in a version of perpetual fight and flight. We may be able to channel this fight and flight anxiety into activities such as cleaning the house, raking the leaves, or working out at the gym. But these activities will have a different feel than they would if they were done with social engagement biology. For some trauma survivors, no activity successfully channels their fight and flight sensations. As a result, they feel trapped and their bodies feel shut down, and trapped in their shut down bodies. These clients may live in a version of perpetual shutdown. So it can massively affect the way we think and the actions that we take based on our state. If you're in a safe and social state, you feel safe in the environment you're in, around the people you're with, you feel connected to a community, to others, you feel safe with others. You're thinking generally, from what they say, the thoughts come and go. We don't really control it that much, really. We just have to bring awareness to the thought and let it pass through. They generally would probably have a more positive edge to them as the thoughts come in. If we're in a safe and social environment, it's less likely to be negative thought patterns. But if we're in constant fight and flight states with anxiety or shut down with depression, our thoughts may be a little bit more negative, if that's the right word. So they talk about the story following state. The story that you tell yourself about yourself is affected by that state too. So if you're in safe and social, you're less likely to talk to yourself in a horrible way and put yourself down and say you're fat or say you're unworthy and all this kind of stuff. But lower down the ladder, you're much more likely to think those things. So as we start to heal through whatever therapy we're receiving, with a bit of polyvagal informed daily practice in there too, the change in our nervous system could allow a change over time in our thought patterns as they come in, and the way we cope too, what we engage in to cope with our sensations. And the dream is obviously to get to a place of safe and social within our own body, feeling safe in our body. And to have that, you know, ideally you don't want to have any trauma residue. You don't want, you know, they say that you don't carry the trauma event with you. You carry the response to the trauma with you in your body, in your nervous system. And to heal through that can allow you to access safe and social in the long term, which can really help your thoughts shift and change. So, you know, there's a place for all kinds of therapies. I found that if I spent too much time in therapies that tackled my thought patterns, it only got me so far, but my nervous system would always trip me up because I need to deal with that before I can really completely heal my, you know, what's going on with my thoughts. So it's an interesting one. And again, this is just, you know, what I've learned along the way. And, you know, when it comes to our behaviors, addiction and the other sort of getting addicted to exercise or getting really obsessed with certain things is a way of us being able to cope if our body doesn't feel safe. And I'm saying that because that's exactly what is it's what happened to me, really. I felt very unsafe in my body from traumas when I was a child. And I did a lot of cognitive work, but I still had that left in my system. And that avoidance of my body meant that I over-exercised it, overate, and just so I could feel something a bit different and feel more in my body by abusing it more, I guess. I could feel it more, very shut down to it. So a combination of avoiding your body pain and, you know, trying to connect your body at all because you're so shut down, you can see how it can be a little bit more complicated. And this is just a short segment talking about it, but I hope what we've talked about here gives you a little bit of an insight. I mean, please go and check out Stephen Porges' work and Deb Dana's work online with all of this, because it's fascinating stuff. There's the Polyvagal podcast by Justin Sinceri on most podcast providers. That's brilliant too. Just check out some of the stuff he's doing. And I just, encourage you to have a look. There's no harm in looking and discovering more about it. I found it very empowering when I realized that a lot of my reactions in an instant isn't something I necessarily have control over. But, you know, we like to think we can have control over the response once it's happened. And that's, I guess, the journey we go on. We'll talk about more about that in episode 3 of the Trauma Magazine show. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope this was useful. Like I said, I'm not an expert in any way. So, you know, if you know anything that I haven't mentioned around this, just drop me a message. I'd love to share that on the next episode. You know, I just want to get the message out there. And remember that at the end of the day, you know, the healing journey comes from the relationship with the therapist, being held in a safe space, being heard, understood and seen. That's where the real power and healing comes from. So what therapy you choose has to have that in mind too. And I've learned that on my journey as well. So just make sure that whoever you're working with, you feel safe with, you trust, and, you know, they make you feel safe in your own body. That's the most important thing. So thanks for listening. And next time we'll talk about a different other range of subjects. I'm currently re-listening to a lot of Deb Dana's work, so it'll give me more things to talk about again as I start to remember stuff from the first listen. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in this week. Really, really hope that these segments have been of value. And as always, we have the timestamps at the bottom of the video in the description, so you'll be able to, in the future, click to whatever segments that, you know, really, really help you. So if you have any questions at all that you'd like us to cover, any topics like us to cover, maybe ping us an email at team@mancovewellbeing.com. I'll pop this in the description too. It'll be under the disclaimer at the bottom of the video description. So that's where you'll find the email. Or you can go on the website and there's a contact form there. Just ping some questions over to us, or maybe make a comment under the video wherever you're watching this. And let's see if me and the team can cover any topics that you have that might be of interest to you. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you as always to our amazing patrons who support us on Patreon. So a big thank you to Karen Goodson, Stephen Truelove, Hannah Irvin, Julie Ferris, Darryl Osborne, Emerald McLeod, Roland Chesters, and Michael Morgan. Thank you so much, everybody. We wouldn't be here without you. Absolutely amazing stuff. Awesome. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time for episode 3 and even more trauma talk. Thanks for listening, and take care.